The other fact is Colombia has very old plantations. One of the problems of Colombian coffee is the trees are very old, but farmers don't see a way to renovate. So when the price went up, this made some farmers renovate. But if you do like an inventory of the whole Colombia and you check the how old are the plantations, they are very old. The same happens to cacao. We thought, for example, Ecuador already did all the renovation on the whole cacao of the country. But if you see Colombia, you still have a big,
Right.
big percentage of farms that are old and not even with the good price found the stability to say, okay, I'm going to invest in 30 more years.
Right. Right.
Okay, I'm going to invest in 10 more years for coffee. No.
No.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop, It's Time to Become a Coffee Consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details.
Welcome to the Mapper Forward Middle East podcast, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is unfortunately episode 5, the last episode of our series with Angela Barrero from Bodega de la Finca in Quindío, Colombia. We are talking about whether there will be coffee and cacao in 25 years, something we have not mentioned in this series yet. Agronomists, agricultural engineers, climatologists, that's the word I'm looking for. All of these people are saying that if we do not change things in the way that we grow coffee and cacao, we have maybe 20 harvests left. Am I understanding that correctly, Angela?
Is correct. Like my own farm had no harvest left. We were in I see it like a tipping point. We were in a point where we couldn't grow not even cacao or coffee, but nothing.
Right.
The soil was depleted.
People in our industry seem to think it's ridiculous, this idea that coffee could go away. And I don't know whether they think that just because they're disconnected from the producing side of the supply chain, or because they're not really involved in the process of direct relationships. The majority of people here in the Middle East really just buy from an importer. There's very few people that are actually going direct and building relationships with producers. So I think it's really important in this episode that we help people understand that the sustainability of coffee in 20 years is really under threat for a lot of reasons. As we said in the last episode, it's not just because it's going to continue to get very, very, very hard to grow coffee, but also because when the price of coffee goes as low as what it is right now, and the price that it is now at $2.89 on the commercial market, that is considered high for the past, let's say, 20 or 30 years. But it doesn't even come close to covering the cost of production. There is no incentive there for succession, for the next generation of farmers to take over from their parents. So in your mind, Angela, having said all of that, do you think that we will have a viable coffee and cacao industry in 20 years, 25 years from now?
I don't think so, because exploitation is getting to an end. People are in Africa, I'm very surprised by Africa, the way they are learning and innovating, and like I think in so many years, in some years, Africa is going to surpass Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
Latin America is being stuck in this illegal drug, which is also a business, Lee.
Yeah.
Why would you grow coffee if you can grow coca leaves and have a good income for your family?
But that's the same thing in Africa. And in parts of the Middle East, in Yemen, they're experiencing a similar problem. Coffee farmers are being challenged with a drug called chat. It's a chewing stimulant, right? And it's a very fast growing cash crop that is cheaper to grow than coffee and rotates. You can get 3 crops, I believe, a year out of it. Whereas in coffee, it's a much longer process, as we've talked about in this series. So
why would you do a business that takes 10 years?
Exactly.
And you don't get paid.
Yeah.
Like that's why these illegal crops are getting more and more. Like Colombia this year has an increase of 67%
Wow.
on coca plantations.
Wow.
It's on the news. Like you can check it, Google. It's not like any political statement I'm doing. It's a business. Lee, you have an asset. You have your farm, and you plan ahead of a crop, and you need to make a living. If coffee doesn't make a living, it's not sustainable.
Right. Right. And there's plenty of
It's not
people.
sustainable.
The demand for these illegal substances, the same as the demand for coffee, is outstripping supply. So why wouldn't people go for the crop that is going to pay them more, which is these illegal substances? There's much better market with less red tape. They don't have to go through the FNC. They don't have to go through any of these things. It's easier to just do this. They deal directly with the cartels, and that's what happens.
And then the cartels take control of areas.
Right.
And it's very bad. It's very bad. At the end, it's very bad for the people that live there.
Right.
It's not safe for you, for your farm. Many people in Colombia right now are not able to go to their farms. So farming is in threat. Like it's not only coffee, cacao. It's farming.
Why is
Farming is like, because it's too risky. Like it's an investment.
Right.
So you do an investment and you're not going to get the money back. And you have to work very hard. And at the end, if the numbers doesn't work out, you are out of business.
Right.
And so big companies, big agriculture companies are buying these lands. And they are the ones who are doing, because they have all the supply chain. They can then sell it and they don't lose money.
Right. They're vertically integrated.
Money, coffee, and food is gonna become very expensive. We've seen it. Like the after the Ukrainian war, the cost of living in my country went up very high, but the wages didn't.
Right. It's everywhere.
So at the end, like you are like a porter.
Right.
You are like, and farmers are not richer because the price went up. The price didn't go and help the farmer.
No. And so there seems to be, as we've been talking about on the Global podcast for many years now, but more urgently in the last couple of years, there seems to be this dance that farmers have to do with decisions that they have to make. Is it going to be viable to continue to grow coffee? Should we replace our crops? With someone like you, we have been working together You were in one of our mastermind groups, and there were a couple of other producers that were in our mastermind groups. And the main question was, if we're gonna do this long term, we have to build stable businesses. And so you went through the process of really deciding that, yes, we figured out how to we're in the process of solving the problem of how to increase our supply on the farm through regenerative agriculture. But then you have to create not just sustainable supply, you have to create sustainable businesses. So for you, as somebody who's looking at being in farming for the next 30, 40, 50 years so that you can pass it on to the next generation, what has that process been like for you to have a sustainable business? How have you approached that?
So for us was mastermind was like when you get up in a tree and you really
Ah,
see the big
right.
picture. And we already had all this work on regenerative, but we didn't market it. We had it like outside the kind of the promise you give to the
The
client.
values?
And so the value we have is we build a sustainable crop, and this sustainable crop has clients that are willing to pay that. They come and see this is true. Like you tell you do this, and then they come and they do audit to you, and they see, well, okay, let me show me what do you do with this, how do you do that. And they see it, they test it, because they also test if you have traces. They take the coffee, taste it, and the cacao, low cadmium, no traces, and so that itself puts you in another market. It's a complete different thing. And then the other thing I have done through this year is develop the product with my target clients. So we have to decide, who do we sell this to? We are not selling in the sea market price. We have a client that is willing to pay this. So we have to learn what that client requires and work on the quality. So perhaps the cacao isn't the fermentation they want. So what difference I have to do in the farm level to reach that quality for the client? For example, the coffee, I don't have a machine. We have maquila, but then we do this relationship with roasters and with the clients, and so the coffee it's cortado leche. The milk, when you put my coffee on the milk, it goes bad, the milk, because the acidity
Oh, wow.
is too high, it's too crazy. And so then they found out this was a specialty kind of coffee that it's called cortado and this and this. And we had to go back to the roaster and, okay, we need more roasting to the coffee,
Needed to be
because
darker.
it's yeah, because then the client does the espresso very fast, doesn't have time to the extraction, and so they get all the acid out. And so all of that knowledge you learn it through the it's like developing a product. And this needs to have like a sheet of a product.
It's product
So
development.
this gives you like, yeah, so you develop the whole thing. You have to then do all the procedures. So you have always the same coffee.
Right.
They want the same coffee every time.
Right.
And you can't deliver it one day and then the other day. You can't. That's the way you get in the long term clients, that like cafeterias, that they buy my coffee for the whole year. And I supply that because I work on that. But my coffee is not C price.
Right.
If you want C price, go and get it anywhere else.
Go somewhere else.
If you want and I am very serious. Like, I sit down, how much coffee are you gonna need? And we make sure we deliver the whole year, which is also not easy because we have harvest times, harvest peaks, and sometimes it could be easier in the harvest for cash flow, sell the coffee, and just get the money, but not the relationship.
Right.
We have, and this also helps a lot in the quality because they sit down with you, something is happening. Like, it's so beautiful. The clients I have, I I'm very grateful of this is also part of regenerative agriculture, to regenerate also the people you do business with. You can't keep doing business with the same people that don't have the same values as you do. And this also requires a product development. How do you want? How is the package? The deliveries? When is your peak season? In a way, it also works for me in the numbers. So
Yeah, it's very interesting to see that with all the clients that I have, but with all the people that I have on the podcast as well, right? There is a very fast, it's becoming very clear very quickly who I think are going to be the businesses, no matter where they are on the supply chain, of who's going to be here in 20 years and who's not. And the defining factor is a couple of things. One, they're not being ignorant to what the real problems that exist are. They realize that it's going to get harder to grow coffee and it's going to get harder to get access to coffee if you don't have relationships. The second thing is they're being proactive in engaging in solutions and engaging in relationships. And the third thing is they are realizing that the business model that may have worked before is not working anymore, and it will not work into the future. And they are going and finding partners that will work hand in hand with them, whether it is a buyer going and finding a farmer or a farmer going and finding buyers, where they can all work hand in hand with each other to spread out the risk so that everybody wins. I have been working 9 years in the coffee industry for this one thing. I've been in the coffee industry for 20 years, but for Mappa Forward, this is the thing we have been working on for 9 years. And the very interesting thing that I'm realizing real time while I'm talking to you is, while we have arrived at a point where this is something that some people are focusing on, it will be too late for most people. And there's nothing we can really do about that, because we have reached a point now where coffee farmers are saying, we tried so hard to get you guys to pay attention to how bad this problem was. You know, something we didn't talk about is how we ended up in this situation. And I think that how we ended up in the situation of coffee being so cheap and coffee farmers having such a depleted soil, a big part of that problem is directly related to what I was just talking about. Coffee farmers had to subsidize everybody else in the supply chain by cutting corners and doing things that would make coffee so cheap. They couldn't reinvest in their farms. They couldn't reinvest in the soil. They couldn't reinvest in knowledge and the things that were needed to have farms that would last forever. Am I right, Angela? Or is there another way to see this?
Is right. And I'm gonna tell you two things that are happening right now, and that prove this is you're saying. So first, there is a generation of pickers that is getting old, and they have no insurance. They have no, like, they're getting old.
No
And
retirement.
they're not gonna get no retirement payment. And some of these old people, we still give them a place here in the farm, like they can stay sometime, and they help us. Like I sit down, have lunch with them. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? But what I think is dramatic is they are very old. They still have to work, and they have no retirement. And we don't see the FNC saying we are going to do,
Right.
I
No
don't know,
support.
taking out, because they have like like a tax. Every pound of coffee that comes from Colombia, it pays a tax to the FNC. And we don't see them talking about this. This is a reality nobody talks about. But there is a whole generation of people that got old, and they are in very bad situation. Lee.
Wow.
It's sad. It's very sad. And you can check that out. This is not like some crazy woman saying it's real. And the other fact is Colombia has very old plantations. One of the problems of Colombian coffee is the trees are very old. But farmers don't see a way to renovate. So when the price went up, this made some farmers renovate. But if you do like an inventory of the whole Colombia and you check the how old are the plantations, they are very old. The same happens to Cacao. We thought, for example, Ecuador already did all the renovation on the whole cacao of the country. But if you see Colombia, you still have a big,
Right.
big percentage of farms that are old, and not even with the good price found the stability to say, okay, I'm going to invest in 30 more years.
Right. Right.
Okay, I'm going to invest in 10 more years for coffee. No.
No.
People say, okay, it's a good price right now. What can I do to the cafetal to get the money back? And that's it. We don't see renovations. We don't see like big investments. And in my area, and in the areas where the coffee is being grown in Colombia, it's even higher and higher in altitude in areas that were like a forest.
Wow. So we've got some challenging years ahead of us. And, you know, as coffee farmers decide that they don't want to be in business, like people will say, but it's fine. Brazil is going to take care of everything. There's a lot of coffee farmers in Brazil. Folks, they're experiencing the same weather problems that are being experienced everywhere else with climate change shifts, drought, more frosts. There's going to be a lot of problems. So the next 20 years is going to be a defining era for coffee and for cacao. Angela, thank you. And before we wrap up this series, I'm going to ask you the question we've started asking everybody at the end of the podcast. And that is, when the future version of you comes back and watches this, what do you hope for her?
I feel so proud of what I do. I change a corporate job to be like a mom and to be a farmer, and I wouldn't change that idea for nothing. It's farming for me has allowed me to be a present mom. Things like cooking to my kids, it's for me very, very important. So if I see that the future version, was able to keep the asset, which was the farm, which at the end it has gotten value because of the inflation itself. And so we were able also to keep my uncle, to to give him like a way to live, like, because I talk to many people that are old, and they say, I would love to have a cacao plantation, like a retirement kind of thing. They invested for the 30
Yeah.
years for a retirement. They see it like a retirement, and it's a very beautiful. So being a farmer it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like every day I feel so happy, so blessed. I give thanks to the universe to be able to do the things I do.
Mm.
It's the farmers should be like our heroes.
Gods. Honestly, like, I don't think that people can connect what's going to happen if food security does become in threat the way that we think it's going to become in threat. Angela, thank you for a wonderful, wonderful series. And I hope that I'm sitting having a coffee somewhere with the future version of you that's watching this. I hope that will make me very happy. Tell everyone where they can find out more about you online.
So we have an Instagram page at Bodega de la Finca. I think if you can please help us to write it
Yes,
down.
we'll put it in the show notes.
At Bodega de la Finca. And we also have another Instagram at Café Tiolita, which is the coffee one. And we share in Bodega de la Finca, we share a lot of knowledge about regenerative ag, what we do. Look, try this, try that. We are doing, and we teach. We also have with Lee a learning hub where people can come and learn about regenerative ag. It's not only taught to farmers, but to anyone, so they could know what do we do, like, because it's very difficult to explain like in 20 minutes what we do. It's very difficult. There are preparations, these teas, so we teach the farmers or anyone that gets in, and it's really a gift. Map It Forward
Thank you.
gives to the farmers, because there is no other place where we can learn. Like myself, I found always doing this try error, and very few people who I can ask, look, I have this problem. Yep. So by supporting Map It Forward, you support farmers to be able to get this information, which I'm very grateful Lee has taken the leadership on that.
Thank you very much for saying that. And the workshops are really, really affordable, guys. They start at $10 for farmers and they're $20 for everybody else. So please, this is the future of our industry. You will need to understand this far more than you will need to understand how to brew a cup of coffee. I promise you that this is more important than knowing how to brew a cup of coffee if you want to be in business. If you want to be in the industry in any way in the next 5 years, this is what you're going to need to understand. So, Angela, will you do us the honor of signing off the series for us, please?
Bye, everybody.
Have an amazing rest of your day, everyone. Bye.
This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.